Welcome to the Big Me Kickoff. It is Tuesday, February 20th. Where is the month gone already? The Big Me Kickoff is brought to you in part by our great friends over at No Naturals. A little bit more about them in a minute or two, but you can read all about it in the scroll below. Um, it is getting closer to the start of spring football, and I'm sure that you've already seen on the channel that we had the opportunity to talk to James Laurinaitis along with Matt Guerrieri, two of the quote unquote new hires for Ohio State, even though both coaches are very familiar with the program. Guerrieri had a cup of coffee when Jim Knowles came over, served under him in a support role, left, and is now back as the replacement to Perry Eliano. And then, of course, James Laurinaitis, a GA who now is the linebackers coach. I'm going to leave all of that for other shows that we have because I want to focus on something that maybe didn't get the notice today with Ohio State fans just because of the opportunity to talk to the assistants. And we will get to that here in a second, but we have some bills to pay. So let me tell you a little bit more about our friends at No Naturals. Are you ready for an entirely different edible experience? Welcome to No Naturals, where we're shattering the stereotype of one note, slow acting gummies. Forget waiting over an hour to feel the effects. Our gummies are fast acting in just 15 to 30 minutes. You're just not choosing a flavor, you're choosing your vibe. With 5 core experiences and 6 custom combos, you're in full control. Whether it's energy and focus without the crash, a peaceful slumber that lasts all night, or a game changing burst of bliss and euphoria, these edibles are the real deal. And the best part, you don't need a doctor's recommendation. No Natural gummies are dispensary quality and discreetly delivered right to your door. So whether you're craving a productivity boost, a good night's sleep, or some blissful euphoria, say hello to No Naturals. Try them today and use code HUDDLE10 for 10% off your order at shop.nonaturals.com. Know your edibles. Know your experience. No Naturals. And I say that as somebody who uses the product, and they are fantastic. They are fast acting. It's great that they just get delivered right to my door. I don't have to go somewhere, worry about somebody that I don't know steering me in the wrong direction with a product that I can't trust. I am a big fan of the No Naturals, and be sure to use code HUDDLE10 to get 10% off your order at shop.nonaturals.com. All the information again on the scroll and in the show notes. So be sure to take care of those who take care of us here at the Big Me Kickoff. Back to regularly scheduled programming. Um, the College Football Playoff Committee today announced the approval of the quote unquote, I guess we'll call it the 5-7 model as college football moves into the 12-team playoff era. Gone is the 4-team playoff and the drama and the angst and the consternation about who number 5 is. Hello to angst and consternation about who number 13 is. But more importantly, there was a change in the initial way that things were going to be done. Initially, it was a 6-6 system. Your 6 top conference champions were going to get those top 6 seeds. And then you were going to have a case of where the next 6 teams would then be selected. And the thought there was Power 5 champions and then a group of 5 champion. And it wasn't necessarily going to have to be in that order. If your group of 5 champion was like 12th in the nation and your Pac-12 champion was 17th, then your group of 5 champion would be 5 and your Pac-12 champion would be 6th. Well, the Pac-12 went and got itself disbanded largely. I mean, no offense to Oregon State and Washington State. The Pac-12 went out and got itself a new commissioner. I don't know why you need a commissioner for 2 teams, but I guess you have to have a placeholder to keep everything going on. And I'm not denigrating the person they brought in as commissioner. There's a lot of history there. First female commissioner of a autonomous conference. But let's be honest, we have all lost the lexicon Power 5. It's now Power 4. So if you went 6-6, that meant 2 group of 5 champions were going to get in. The likelihood of two group of five champions being in the top, let's just say 12 nationally, was nil. Just being honest, it's just nil. Especially when Conference USA saw some of its membership go. I guess America, I mean, the American, that's CUSA in my mind for some reason, but the American, and just the way that things have moved on, you had to have a change to 5 and 7, which is now your power four plus one, and then seven at large bids. Now, this does not change the way that the structure is going to be, where you're going to have your top teams that are going to get that quote unquote first round bye. And then you're going to have your remainder games, which will be taking place according to the calendar December 20th and December 21st. That will be your first round. We will get into that schedule here in a second. And you play there. So if you are an at-large team, you are playing in the first round because of the way that the buys, you earn a buy. I always get round and round with people about there's a difference between an open week and a buy. You have an open week during the season, you can earn a buy, and you're going to earn a buy. Your champions are going to earn a buy. Your top champions. But this is a very important move, and what comes out of this remains to be seen, because not all of your power 4 leagues are the same. The Big 10 and the SEC are just built differently than the ACC and the Big 12. And we're not even necessarily getting into Florida State's desire to get out of the ACC and everything else, but I really think that this 5-7 model is temporary. And that doesn't mean that I think they're going to go back to 6-6, because that's just never that's not going to happen. But I think that we are going to see the ACC come apart before 2035. I really do, as now there is kind of a path for Florida State to buy its way out, if you will, of the ACC. I still don't think Florida State ends up in the Big 10. Now, there are some very loud voices on social media that are saying, well, it's because of the AAU and blah, 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 blah. When television is really a huge determining factor of what's going on, TV doesn't give a crap about the AAU. It doesn't. And while every university president and chancellor in the Big 10 can sit there and thump their chest and say, it means everything to us, we're talking about something much larger than that. And that's, it's funny talking about that, because we can go back to previous shows I've done, whether it's been my own show or a show that I've been a guest on. I'm like, conference expansion, football, athletics is just a piece of it, because you're dealing with so much more. You're dealing with the Big Ten Alliance, which was formerly the CIC, the Consortium on Institutional Cooperation, or something like that. But right now, honestly, conference expansion is much more about these TV deals and things of that nature, and you just kind of figure out the rest of it. And while AAU is all well and good, there's a reason why we're not talking about the Big Ten rating the Ivy. There's a reason why the Big Ten didn't take Cal and Stanford. We're talking about a lot of organizations that have AAU status, but aren't going to turn on a single television set for football. And in a large case, in any sport. And I have all the respect in the world for Cal and Stanford's athletic departments. They win national championships and more national championships in your Olympic sports. Speaking of national championships, congratulations to the Ohio State indoor men's tennis team that just won the ITA national championship on Monday, I believe, with a win over, I believe it was TCU. And I think it really came down to the end. But back to the point, I don't really think that when it comes to these things, when Fox has a seat at the table, at the negotiating table, that it is all that concerned that Nebraska had AAU status and then lost AAU status and is fighting to get AAU status back, and whether or not Florida State or whoever has it. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean that the Big Ten is going to completely disregard all considerations. There are just some schools out there that don't have the academic chops to be part of the current Big Ten. And that's just a reality. And that doesn't mean that if you go there that your degree isn't worth a piece of crap or whatever. That's just saying that there are tier 3 schools academically that just doesn't matter what they do, they're not going to get in. But if you're close, then and you can turn on television sets and you can bring your worth financially to the contract, TV is going to be like, you should really think this through before we have to help you think this through. Of course, we all know the biggest prize out there still is Notre Dame. And if you want Notre Dame in the Big Ten, and I know there's some people who don't, fool me once, fool me twice, fool me thrice. You guys have been thumbing your independence at us for so long. Go away. But the vast majority of people would like Notre Dame in there geographically, historically. Yeah, Notre Dame hasn't really been worth a whole hell of a lot in football for a couple of generations. That's true. Does Notre Dame catch up some if it's able to recruit its region a little bit more because it trades in games against Boston College and such to play a Big Ten schedule? Already plays USC. I mean, let's still say this. USC is a Big Ten team moving forward. I know it's foreign. I know it's awkward. It doesn't sound right, but it's true. And when you look at it, Notre Dame not being in a conference can never be. See, I'm bringing this full circle. I had somebody message me, a person that I really enjoy talking to. It's like, you should consider having guests on or whatever, because you do a stream of consciousness show. Basically, what he said, without being rude, is there are times I think you just roll up here and just start talking, and you don't have a plan. There are days like that. Yes, there are days like that. Life is complicated, and I just get up. I'm like, oh my, I got to do a show. So I'm just going to talk and see where it takes me. But even if I had a guest, I would do that. But I'm bringing this full circle. Notre Dame cannot be part of the 5. Why? It's not in a conference. It's sort of in the ACC. ACC isn't going to say, well, you can take our slot if you are higher in the rankings. No, hell no. Everybody else isn't going to sit there and say, oh, well, you're Notre Dame. You were really good in the 30s. You were really good when we were still using trains to cross the country. Sure. Have your cake and eat it too. We'll bend over backwards for you. No. Jack Swarbrick is coming to the end of his term at Notre Dame, and a new AD will be in place, a former television executive with NBC. I'll be curious to see what comes of that. How closely is Notre Dame watching what is happening with the ACC and Florida State, and maybe to a lesser extent Clemson and some others? Notre Dame has some deals in place because it has placed everything but football in the ACC. I haven't read up on the rules, and if you read the Florida State complaint, the ACC grant of rights is like under lock and key at their offices. They're not letting me in to go read it. So I don't know the exact wording, but you have to imagine that Notre Dame is very curious as to what's going to happen when you're 80% in where a league where its top teams don't really want to be there. They just don't. I think that Florida State is beyond the point of appeasement. I don't think that there is a plan that the ACC could come out with and say, okay, you are so special there in Tallahassee, we will give you 1.3x of what the payout is. We'll just figure it out. Sorry, BC. Sorry, UVA. Just Florida State is our special little sunshine, and we're just going to make sure that they're going to get a little bit more money. We're beyond that. There are too many hurt feelings. There's too much ego. There's too much of a you know what measuring contest going on now. So it's not ever going to get to that point now. So we'll see. There's a lot of intrigue as we have not played a single game of the 12-team playoff, and we're already looking to what's next. And now that's not saying that the number 12 is going to change, but we've already had a complete rework. 6-6 is gone. 5-7 is here. We are still months away. We are still months away. What is it? 10 months away from first round games. I'm not convinced. So this will be the 24-25 playoff season. I'm not consent. I really think that the 26-27 playoff season, so just a couple short years, is going to look significantly different. And that's not saying that I think for sure that we're going to have a power two. That's not any of that. But I really do think that Florida State finds a way to buy out of the league. And I think if that door gets cracked open, 2 or 3 other teams may up and leave. Because what is the ACC going to do? What is the ACC going to replace Florida State with? Let's just put this in a vacuum. And I will get to the calendar of the playoffs, which isn't new news, but I just think it adds a little context to the story, and then we'll call it an episode. What does the ACC do to keep everybody else there, short of just saying, well, you see how many tens of millions of dollars Florida State's going to have to pay out? Short of signing Notre Dame to football exclusively, as a full conference member, what's out there? Who could the ACC get to appease Clemson and Miami and North Carolina and teams like that? How are they going to sit there and say, we're better without Florida State? The hell with those guys. This is better. Now, of course, the skeptic out there is going to say, well, maybe you sit there and you feel better because that's one less team to compete with. And if you're getting an automatic berth, as the 5-7 deal says, you're getting an automatic berth there. That's a lot easier. That's an easier path. But a diminished ACC without Florida State, and we're in bizarro world, because 3 years ago, I'm laughing at Florida State. Oh, they're bad. This year, they were pretty good. Florida State lost its quarterback and didn't get into the playoff, the 14 playoff. Everybody opted out of the game. And Georgia did unspeakable things to Florida State in the bowl game. I remember the score. I don't remember anything else. Sometimes you see something so traumatic that you just can't remember it. I might have to get hypnotized to sit there and remind me what happened in that game, because I don't remember. It was horrible. It was like, oh, I'd love to see just one team come out there and just destroy the other team. We saw it, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun at all. It was horrible. But the point being is, what does the ACC do at that point? How does the ACC look at the College Football Playoff Committee and say, we are still a Power 4 league, sir, or ma'am, as the case may be? We don't deserve any difference of things. I mean, yeah, it may be difficult to sit there and say, well, nope, you've lost your spot. Now we're down to a power 3 and we're looking at you, Big 12. But I don't think that there's anything that can be done. I don't think there's anything that can be done for that league to be equal to what it was with Florida State. Whether or not that's a 12-0 Florida State team, a 10-2 Florida State team, or an 8-4 Florida State team. This is not going to be addition by subtraction. Period. We're going to get stuck with more BC versus Wake games. And I'm not here for that. 10 years ago, I could sit down and watch about any college football game. I can't watch that stuff now. I just can't. Unless you do it in like a whole throwback thing, put it on Jefferson Pilot and use like really old clunky graphics. But, I don't know. So I've really kind of thought about what this 5-7 deal means. And on the surface, it's just easy to say, well, that's just common sense. That's just common sense. That's what you should have done. That means the Pac-12 is gone. Pac-12 may come back as the Pac-12 Mountain West leftovers division. Shouldn't be a Power 5 league. So that just makes sense. But again, you see two conferences that lead the way in the SEC and the Big Ten. We know that 5 spots are guaranteed to specific teams. 3 of them not being Big Ten or SEC teams. You have a Big Ten champ, an SEC champ, and then 3 that make out your 5. Out of that 7, how many of those teams are going to be Big Ten and SEC teams? 5? Are 7 out of 12 teams going to be from the Big Ten and the SEC? I've done a lot of study on what I think the Big Ten is going to be this year, not as much on the SEC. You bring in Texas and Oklahoma. I think Texas is going to be pretty good. I think Georgia's going to be pretty good. I really think Ole Miss is going to be pretty good. Yes, Ole Miss lost Quinshon Judkins to Ohio State. If we look at the transfer portal from an overall top-down view, Ole Miss won the transfer portal. It was funny that Lane Kiffin came out and was talking about, the portal and woe is us and everything else when Ole Miss goes out and gets Walter Nolan from Texas A&M. And that's why I'm still convinced that ultimately Lane Kiffin's comments were not directed at Ohio State. Lane Kiffin's comments were directed at Ole Miss boosters. Give till it hurts. We're not the only ones out here who are working the portal. So, I think that you could have a case of where, I'm saying what you got 2 teams there, and if it's 5, if 7 of the teams are coming out. So if we've identified 2 or 3 teams from the SEC and 2 or 3 teams from the Big Ten outside of its champions, we're almost there. So if 7 of the 12 are there, you have 5 spots remaining. 3 of them are locked up by champions. That leaves 2 more spots. If you're an ACC member, what are we doing here? Does that mean that you could go 10-2 and be left out? Probably. Could a 9-3 SEC team that plays a real schedule get voted in over a 10-2 ACC team that plays an ACC schedule, especially in this hypothetical without Florida State? Congratulations, you beat Miami, Georgia Tech, and Clemson. I don't know what that means. I don't know how good these teams are going to be. So there's a lot more to think about with the 7 and 5. And I spent my whole drive home from Ohio State kind of thinking about this as I was convincing myself this is the show I want to do. I don't want to talk about Laurinaitis. I know we will have shows on there. I will probably appear on one of them. I may do a show tomorrow about it for all I know. But this is the one I wanted to talk about because it's just more than just a moment in time of saying we've made a change from 6-6 to 5-7. There are a lot of moving parts that can come out of this. Now we all can say Conference expansion is done right now. Everybody's got their TV deals and everything else, but they don't. But they don't. If Florida State is still working on suing its way out of the ACC, if the ACC is offering a third rail, a third avenue, if of how you can get out of there with money, we all love money. You can get out of it with money. Deals aren't done then. Deals aren't done. And an ACC without Florida State becomes a less valuable commodity. And that less valuable commodity, you do that, you're going to use the money Florida State pays to get out, hypothetically, to make up for the fact that ESPN, ABC is going to want to pay out less because you're going to have fewer good games, because one of the only real draws of a national standpoint is gone. So sure, you could sit there and say, well, people aren't necessarily going to lose money because they're getting less from the games, but you're going to be supplementing them out of this quote unquote, this slush fund that Florida State would have to pay, whether or not it's a lump sum or yearly through 35 or 36 or whatever that is. And if that happens, then what? What does the Big 12 grant of rights look like? They just kind of redid stuff as they absorbed a large part of the outgoing Pac-12. What happens there? There are not a lot of teams in these other two Power 4 leagues that I think that people are going nuts about. And really not many of them are in the Big 12, if we're being honest. Arizona State, there for the taking. Utah, there for the taking. All these teams were there for the taking. And nobody took, except the Big 12. Sure, the ACC kind of kicked around and looked at some stuff, and the ACC goes out and gets Cal and Stanford and Boise. No, I'm sorry, SMU, who SMU hasn't even taken any money. They wanted to get out of Dodge so badly. They're like, well, we're not even going to take any money for the first 7 years or whatever it is. We're not done yet. That's what I'm saying. We're not done yet. Doesn't mean it's going to happen today. Doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow. But this news means that the ever-changing, always adapting landscape of college football is just that. Always changing, ever adapting. This is going to have to keep going. I promised you the dates of the playoffs. I didn't build a board or anything. Not that important, but just for your travel plans. Just for your travel plans. And then we'll end on this. We've almost gone a half hour. First round games, December 20th, December 21st. Those are your on-campus higher seed. The better team hosts the lower seed. If you're Ohio State, you're going to be very disappointed if you're playing on the 20th or the 21st, based on what we think this team should be. Everybody comes together to play as you have now chopped your number by a few teams in the quarterfinals, December 31st, January 1st. No CFP game on December 29th, like the Cotton Bowl. That's not the case anymore. The 31st and the 1st this year. Now, of course, a Sunday in there could screw things up, but I don't think we're going to see an instance of where we're going the 29th and the 30th or whatever. They'll have to kind of figure it out. There's always going to have to be some adaptation, because let's not forget, a really good college football game during the season, you're killing it if you're getting 20 mil national viewership. What does a top bowl game get? 35, 40? Super Bowl got what, 130 million? Something like that. So let's not forget what is king around here. And while I'm 100% college football is king and NFL is cool, nationally speaking, it's the other way around. Your semifinals are January 9th and January 10th, and then your national championship game is going to be January 20th. So you're kind of baking 10 days in or so between rounds. So a little bit more than you would do during your weekly regular season, but we are far removed from when Jim Tressel had to figure out what to do with his team for 50 days or something like that between the end of the season with no conference championship game, when that was the case for the Big Ten, to get all the way to a CL or to a BCS championship game. That's gone. That's gone. I mean, what is like the conference championship games this year? I think I think I don't have a schedule in front of me, but I think that there are 5 games in November. I think like the final week, like rivalry week, it's like the 30th or the 31st of November. So what we're talking like the 6th or the 7th of December is when you play your conference championship game. You got 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks if you are playing a first round game. Pretty important to not have to play in that first round game and be able to enter the tournament right in the quarters, in my opinion. But we're going to have a lot of time to talk about that, folks. A lot of time. It is February 20th, December 20th, 10 months away. So get excited. Get excited. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank our partners over at No Naturals for their generous support of the show as well. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. Don't miss a single episode. Check out everything we have here at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Check us out if you're listening on an audio podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. That really helps us with our distribution. If you're watching us on YouTube and you're not subscribed, we're so close to 20,000 subscribers. Help us get there to 20,000 subscribers. I don't know exactly when that's going to hit. I can't make any promises. I'm not sure I would know who the 20,000th subscriber is. But if you like silliness and stupidness like the pickle eating contest and stuff like that, get us to 20,000 subscribers here soon. And that helps me have a little bit more proof of performance to do more fun stuff on the side, along with all the serious Ohio State talk. And lastly, are you a member of Buckeye Huddle yet? You're not, you say? Why not? Check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. All the best team coverage, recruiting coverage out there. The most chill, awesome community in Buckeye Nation. Join myself, Tony Gerdeman, Tom Orr on the team coverage side, Mark Givler on the recruiting coverage side, Ross Fulton, Mickey Pettit, Devin Ratcliffe, all of those guys on the X's and O's help you become a better fan, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Means a lot. Check us out there. If you do that, send me a message on the message board, over on the Huddle message board. It's like, I'm following you over from the podcast. Let's see what you guys got. But until, I guess, tomorrow, since I got to get 3 shows in this week, I better get moving. Have a great day. Talk to you very soon.